My friends are outing my best friend, because he used to be a woman, so I taught them a lesson by cutting them off for being transphobic, and got nuclear revenge. My bestie Leo and I have been best friends for over a decade, so I've known him since before his transition. He didn't live in the city I did until about 4 years ago, but when he moved, I helped him get a job, make friends, etc. Some people think he's my boyfriend of a year. The truth is a bit more complicated. 2 years ago, I got out of a very harmful relationship. When I was back on the market, I got swarmed with casual guys asking me out. Leo pretended to be my boyfriend to fend off an especially pushy guy at a bar where we're both regulars, and we kept it going because, 1, he was being pressured by his co-workers and mentors, who kept telling him that he's a catch and should date, but he hasn't felt ready, and 2, I needed peace to focus on my therapy and healing from my past relationship. Note, our close friend group knows that Leo and I are not really a couple. Another guy like that was Ian, another friend in the group. He asked me out about 4 or 5 months after my breakup. I explained that I needed at least a 2-year break from dating to focus on therapy, work through my trauma, and take time to focus on myself and what I want. He said he understood, and not even 2 months later, we found out that Ian and another person in the group were a couple, and now they're engaged. Ian has been a friend for maybe 3 or 4 years. We were never especially close, and I always just viewed him as a member of our 6-person friend group. We only ever hung out with the group, never one-on-one. I guess I'm saying this to point out that Ian is sort of like the Flash to my Batman. We get along well when we're with the other super friends, but don't expect too many duo team-ups. At a party at my place, where many of our co-workers and bosses were present, Leo's boss pointed at me and Leo, saying something about how he can't wait for us to settle down and have kids, and asked, "Come on, Leo, what are you waiting for, man?" Ian snorted and muttered man incredulously, then said, "Yeah, if you want to call Leo a man, that's on you." At first, our friends thought it was a supernatural joke, since a lot of us loved the show. But then Ian declared that Leo is actually a woman and provided proof by showing pictures of Leo pre-transition. Ian then made comments implying that I must be a lesbian, I'm bi, and that Leo and I must actually be a real couple and sleeping together. He was kicked out of my home. Being outed as a trans man at work caused a lot of drama, and Leo became depressed, staying with me for the better part of a month. He didn't eat much, lost a ton of weight, and almost never left the house unless he had to go to work. He's been saying very self-loathing, morbid things here and there. I've been really worried about him. I won't lie, I was furious. I'm not an overly confrontational person and am a recovering doormat, but this made my whole being boil. I've been focused on being attentive to Leo and trying to channel my angst, anger, and ire into productive things. But the friend group is a bit complicated, as most think Ian is a jerk for outing Leo, but some also think Leo is in the wrong for not being honest with them. Here's where I might be the schlong. I texted Ian and his fiancée, our mutual friend in the group, Clara, and said that Ian isn't welcome at my home for the foreseeable future and that his future acceptance depends on his actions and Leo's ability to forgive. But Clara defended him, saying Ian was just upset that Leo hid that he was really trans all along and now felt uncomfortable. She said Leo should have said something, at least to our group, before joining outings like swimming, where the men change in the men's locker room and the women in the women's, etc. She said she feels hurt that another woman saw Ian undressing, and the situation devolved from there. In this group, we all work in the same industry but in different departments and mostly at different companies. We're always adjacent to one another in our careers. That's to say, everyone here usually makes at least okay money, and we all know each other's co-workers and the like. I got a call from another friend, Daniel, who is hiring for a senior position. He said Ian had applied for it. Daniel is essentially above Ian, as Daniel is the boss of Ian's current boss. Ian had put me down as a reference, which is something our group does frequently when applying. Daniel was content to use the same letter of recommendation I had sent before when Ian applied for his current position, but he wanted to cover all the bases. I told him that I no longer see Ian as an ethical, responsible, or suitable candidate in our field, given that he seems to be bigoted towards queer folks. As a queer woman, I no longer trust him and would not want to work with him if I had any say in it. Daniel was quiet and asked what caused the change, but I didn't tell him. I just said recent events have caused me to reassess. This was perhaps a week ago. Well, a few hours ago, Clara came over to my place and was pissed. She told me that Ian is getting grilled at work, that HR combed his social media, and they're now considering disciplinary actions against him. She said she knows it's me. She said Leo literally doesn't have the balls to call the company, so it had to be me. She seemed to think I had a crush on Ian and that he turned me down, so I was jealous of her and trying to ruin their lives. She called me desperate and degenerate. I snapped and asked her to leave. She then texted me the same argument she had before, and I reiterated via text that I don't want to speak to her or Ian ever again. I screenshotted all of this and sent it to our friend group chat before leaving the chat. Now I'm getting messages from almost everyone asking what's happening, but also saying that I'm going nuclear and went too far. I texted Leo, and he says he's not ready to deal with the friend group right now, so I can do what I think is right, and he'll regroup and come back to it when he's ready. Did I go too far in involving everyone? What do you think? Update. A little under a month ago, I posted about an ongoing issue. My best friend Leo was outed as a trans man publicly by our former mutual friend Ian. Ian had applied for a job before all this and used us as references, and I said that I don't find him to be trustworthy nor would I want to work with him. Another friend of ours, Clara, basically blamed me for Ian getting a lot of heat at work. The update is that they combed his social media and uncovered quite a few unsavory posts. I never knew this, but he's hugely and vocally transphobic and homophobic. So, instead of a promotion, he got fired. I had already left the friend group chat by this point, and I had blocked both Ian and Clara. My focus was on Leo, who was going through the deepest depression I've ever seen him experience, and we've known each other for a significant portion of our lives. I helped him find emergency therapy, and he stayed with me for almost a month because he was concerned he might relapse. He was spiraling, but thankfully, he's now on the other side of it all. Still, it was terrifying. Neither of us got much sleep during that time, and I called into work often out of exhaustion, concern, or simply feeling numb. A few weeks ago, I caught up with a friend from our old group named Ava, in her 30s, at a place we all frequent. She told me that Ian had been telling everyone that Leo is a woman in real life and cosplays as a man. My blood boiled, but then I heard about Ian being fired, and I'll admit, I didn't feel much sympathy. He hurt my best friend, so in my view, he got off lightly. Of course, about a week after that, I ran into him and Clara at our local grocery store. I'm a creature of habit, that's the store in my community, and I always get groceries on Sundays. Then, I walk across to the Starbucks next door, have tea, and scroll through my phone for a bit before biking back home. I saw them, they saw me, I avoided them, bought my stuff, and walked to Starbucks. Ian, I guess, had things to say, so he ended up there too. He approached me as I waited for my coffee and started going on about how I stabbed him in the back, stooped low to do so, and now he has no job. He said he might have to move because of the rumors I spread about him and that he's being ostracized. He kept complaining, and since this is a Starbucks in a pretty liberal city, I just loudly said, "Well, that's what happens to transphobes, Ian. No one likes a bigot. Go away." While he continued talking, I couldn't hear over the nonsense. A big guy walked over and told him to leave. Ian then started arguing with this guy, and they began trading insults until Ian aggressively pointed a finger in my face and hurled a slur. I know. Like, seriously? Leave enough hate for the other people out there. It turns out being openly racist crosses a line, even more so than being everything phobic, because that's when people started shouting. Eventually, he was just drowned out, surrounded by people who seemed ready to stand up to him, some holding their phones up to record. I was forgotten and just sort of drifted back as he tried to take on a crowd of people from our city, where we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. He left and later sent Leo a long message accusing him of ruining his life because he is masquerading as a man. He said that if he were a real man, he would confront him himself rather than have his friend, me, go after him. Ian went on to say that if anything happens to him due to the stress of being so hated, since he's now getting trolled on social media and receiving threats, it will be Leo's fault. Ian mentioned he should sue Leo and me for defamation and lost wages since we started this witch hunt. Today, I heard he moved, without Clara. She's still here. I don't know about her situation right now, and honestly, I don't really care. I do know she met with Leo and apologized, which he accepted, but he made it clear that their friendship is over. She offered to go to Pride, which is happening locally, and Leo said she's welcome to go but not with him. She asked him to give me a note she wrote for me, which he did, but I haven't read it and probably won't. As far as I'm concerned, she doesn't exist anymore. So that's it. I had forgotten about my post until Leo asked me what happened with it, and I was like, oh yeah. Personally, as a lurker, I dislike unresolved stories, so here it is. Here's your conclusion. That's a wrap.